the big honor to sit with one of the giants for jazz drumming that's been playing with some of the most astonishing people on the earth, like Stan Getz, David Sanborn, Woody Shaw, to name a few. Welcome, Victor Lewis.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, born 1950 in Omaha, Nebraska.
Omaha.
Oh, that's how you say it, Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah.
So, born up in a family with music, surrounded with music. Your daddy played saxophone. Your mom played the piano. Was it already written in their life that you're going to be, our son Victor is going to be a musician?
You know, that's interesting. My father made all of his kids play an instrument because it was his way of tricking them into learning about effort and reward. You know, first, he would say, "You've been listening to the radio?" Say, "Yeah." Hear anything you like? Oh, yeah, Daddy. I like that alto saxophone that I heard the other day. So, boom, my father would get him an alto saxophone and just give it to him and then leave. And so my brother would start off, and a few days would go by, and he would go back to my father and he would say, "Dad, it doesn't play. It's no good." And my father said, "What do you mean it's no good?" And my father would pick it up and play it great. And so my brother would say, well, what's wrong? My father said, "Well, you might want to study it." So he would take lessons and he would get better. And so it was his way of teaching us that if you work on something, you get a result. But he didn't want any of us to do it for a living. You have to understand the times. For him, he felt that all black people played sports and music. So it ended up only my oldest sister, who's 82 now, who was a professional jazz singer in Omaha for 50 years, and me, the youngest son, were professionals.
So, what made you to pick up the drums? I mean, you're born 1950. You started early, and we know that 1958, one of the biggest jazz years of all. We had John Coltrane, we had Mingus coming out with CDs, and we had Dave Brubeck, and you were already playing music around this time. 8 years old.
I started off. My parents would take me to jam sessions, rehearsals, and I would hang out, and I gravitated towards the acoustic bass. But I'm 5 years old, and there's no way that I can handle a real bass. So they bought me a cello because proportionately it fit. But then when I went to take lessons, the teacher made me play with the bow, playing arco. And what I wanted to do was pizzicato, like the jazz bass players. So it kind of disillusioned me, with the cello, because it really wasn't what I wanted. But I played it for a couple of years in grade school. And then I took classical piano from when I was 7 till I was 11. And then at 11, puberty started to hit, and it didn't feel so masculine to be taking classical piano, as a young man. And at that same time, I used to go watch the drum corps in the parades on 4th of July holidays in Omaha, and I really liked the drums, So I started hinting to my parents, that I wanted to play the drums. And also I played trumpet in junior high, trumpet and French horn in junior high. So now I want to play drums. So they rented a snare drum for me. And I wanted to play it in school in junior high, but the conductor said, "We have too many drummers. If you want to be in the band, we need a French horn player." So I played French horn in junior high. So I have my snare drum, and I'm taking lessons, outside of school, and I want a drum set, But my parents didn't know, because I've already gone through the cello, 4 years of classical piano, and the French horn, and so they didn't know if I really wanted to do it, But as time went on, I convinced them. And, on Christmas, when I was 13, this is after just a snare drum for a couple of years. I got my first drum set, and I started playing it, playing along with records, my parents' record collection, and there's something about playing the drums and what the drums, the part in the band that the drums play, it just was magical to
Absolutely.
me.
Well, but learning those instruments and learning the classical piano also got you into composing.
Yeah,
And I know that
yeah.
you're a composer as well, and some of the artists that you play with, let's say David Sanborn, used some of your compositions. And so, what was the? How old were you when you moved away from Ohama?
Okay, I moved away September the 13th of 1973, and I got a gig in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and my plan was to and it was a good gig, a steady gig, 6 nights a week. My plan was to save a lot of money and move to New York. The next thing I knew, almost a year went by, and I hadn't saved much money. You know, I bought a new drum set and a few other things, you know. And then all of a sudden, I said, now's the time. So I told the band that I was leaving. I took my last 2 paychecks and my drums and a little suitcase and moved to New York. September the 16th of 1974. So I was in Minneapolis exactly a year. And I moved to New York, not knowing how long I would stay, you know, but I knew that the time I would spend there, it would be, as they would say, accelerated growth, you know, just being around all the cats.
And it seems like it didn't take you long from you got into play with a lot of those. Kenny Barron, Stan Getz. Who was your first? What was your first call, sort of thing, when you came to New York? Who was the one that got you in business?
Okay, my first, I guess you would say, heavyweight opportunity was in Buster Williams' band, great bass player. He had a band with Al Foster playing drums and Sonny Fortune playing saxophone. And I went to see them at a gig, and they had a cancellation for the next weekend. And the club owner asked Buster if he could also do the next weekend. Well, Al Foster and Sonny Fortune couldn't make the next weekend because they were playing with Miles then. And so Buster asked me, you know, because I met him in Nebraska when he came with Herbie Hancock, and I was following him around. and he asked me to do the gig, and he got Woody Shaw to replace Sonny Fortune. And that's how I met and played with Woody Shaw, which a month later or so led to my first record date in New York with Woody Shaw.
Legendary recording. Yeah. So you were there in this environment, and you played with one after another, and you had a long term with Stan Getz.
Yeah, for almost 10 years.
Until, how was that experience?
Oh, it was great. I learned, I did a lot to develop my touch playing with Stan Getz, my sensitive touch. Because Stan liked the intensity and the energy, but at a not so loud of a volume. And so I was able to work on trying to play with a touch that projected, but yet wasn't too loud, you know, and sensitivity, you know, and work on my time, you know, have a good time. Because Stan Getz had fantastic time. His timing in his playing was excellent.
So, and what have made you to retain your love for jazz and for playing the drums this whole time? What is the secret of waking up in the morning and saying, "I love my job. This is what I want to do"?
You could say maybe I'm a musicaholic. Music changes your vibrations, you know, and lifts your spirit, and helps your attitude, and makes you feel stronger about the good part of humanity, and I love that feeling, you know, and I haven't gotten tired of it, you know, even though I've gotten older, you know, and had back surgery and everything, and maybe I'm not as young, you know, in terms of playing the drums as I was 40 years ago, but I have a lot of knowledge musically, and I just love to play. I love to play for people. You know, I love to watch their vibrations change, because if we do our job good, then we lift the spirits of people. You know.
Of course.
So in a way, I say I play for humanity.
And also, some advantages you've been having as a jazz musician, you've also been able to see the world, and you've been touring with all those bands. So, when did you come to Sweden the first time?
First time I came to Sweden, I think, was the winter of 1977, and that was with Woody Shaw. And we played across the street at Fashion. You know, because the lady yesterday told me that Fashion opened in 1977, I think it was. So it was early on in the club.
Right.
Yeah, so it was 1979. And then over the years, I played at Fashion with, you know, Stan Getz, Carla Bley, you know, a lot of different people over the years.
So, have you been collaborating with any Swedish musicians over the years?
Yeah, a lot with Anders Bergcrantz. You know, he's...
Well, we have to say that Anders Bergcrantz doesn't need any presentation for us Swedish musician, but a fabulous trumpet player. And why don't we try to? I mean, I can try to call up Anders or something.
Get him down here.
Yeah, we try to get Anders down and let him say a few
Okay,
words.
sounds good. Sounds good. Let's get him.
Okay, so now we get hold of Anders, and thank you for coming down. And I'm sure you know Victor since before.
Sure, yeah.
So how did you start, Victor?
I think we first met in New York when we were hanging out.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. It seemed like we struck up a friendship, and I've been a fan of his because he's influenced by Woody Shaw, you know, which is the good thing. And over the years we decided to do things together, you know. So we've done several projects here in Sweden over the years, you know.
That's right.
This is another one, you know.
And my, also even before we became friends and played together, I heard Victor many times. I heard him live in Copenhagen mostly, in other places. I heard him on radio. I heard you on records even before that, on many records. So when I was very, very young, you were one of my absolute favorite musicians all times, and still my favorite musician. So it's such an honor and a thrill to play with you. Yeah, we did a few things in Sweden. We played a little bit in New York City.
A little bit in New York also.
A few years back. And now we're here.
So what does make two, I mean, you have two completely different instruments. Yeah? You have drums and you have trumpets. Well, the elements are there with rhythm and all that. But what does that make, say, for a trumpet player? You can play with 5 great drummers, and they're all great, but one of them would somehow apply more to your playing. So what is it that hooks two guys up musically?
Okay, Victor is a complete drummer for me. It's swinging. Victor is hearing the soul, listening to the soloists. I mean, extremely much. It's so easy to communicate with Victor. We play, interact on rhythms together or dynamics together and all that. So I just feel it's very easy to play together.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I mean, in a way, I mean, it's always hard, but it's so easy to communicate with.
For me, I agree with Anders. For me, it's very important to have the dialogue going within the band, and in order to have that going, the guys have to really listen to each other. You know, so you have that magical spin of the dialogue in the band, and he listens, and so we have a conversation. You know, because I can hear, you know, he'll play something which makes me play something, and he heard that, which makes him play something because I played something, you know, and the dialogue goes, you know.
Because I know you've also done a lot of small combos as well. You've been playing, like Anders been playing with symphony orchestras and these small groups. And then, of course, you learn how to listen in a different way if you have 50 musicians behind you. I know, for example, you played quite a lot of duo with Julius Hempel.
Yeah, yeah.
And I bet that would form you as musicians when there is no piano, no guitar,
Yeah.
no bass in there, and you really have to open up your ears.
Yeah, and try to provide as many textures as you can, you know, to kind of fill out the palette of the textures of the music, you know. So it's in a way playing a duo is more challenging, but you have more freedom, you know, because you have to provide for the instruments that are there.
Can we say that the circle is almost closed? You play with Woody Shaw. Anders, one of Anders' big idols when he grew up was Woody Shaw. He listened, and then you became a big fan of Anders in the New York scene, and you guys are playing together. So the circle is almost closed. But if you guys would live to be 150, there is still some music. You guys could still do something more, yeah? So every time you play, you develop new things and new interactions. How is it?
Yeah.
It's never-ending story.
Yeah.
We spoke last night, and we came to the conclusion that we're still learning every day. We're still students and learning every day, even though we're grown-ups. So it's, even though we play, I mean, in the future, which we will, we're going to do new things. You know,
It's always keep
get to new places, I think. Yeah.
Well, Anders and Dexter, it's been tremendous, great to have you on our little show, and we're looking forward to hear you play tonight at Fasching. So you played in 1977 when it just opened, and now you're playing at 2014. Anders, what track are we going to listen to tonight?
We're going to hear three pieces in water, especially written by Anna-Lena Laurin for this band. We're going to hear an old tune that I wrote when I was 15 or 16 years old, called Bagatelle. And
One of your daughters?
My daughter's Iris' beautiful tune, If You Fail, I'll Always Stay. So at least we're going to hear three tunes tonight, maybe more, hopefully more.
Well, we're looking forward to that, and I know that you're gonna go in and sound check and do a little thing at Fasching soon. So thanks, guys, and how about I see you in Fasching in a few hours?
Okay, sounds good. It's a pleasure, man.
Good, thank you.